Surveillance footage shows a small girl walking beside her mother inside a car rental office in Lompoc, California. She wears a gray hoodie and a dark wig that slightly covers her face. The girl is 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard. That video, recorded on the 7th of October 2025, is the last confirmed sighting of her. 3 days later, her mother returned the rental car alone. Melodee was gone. Investigators began tracing the miles they had traveled, searching for any sign of her, but nothing came back. What happened after the camera stopped recording, and why didn't Melodee come home? On the 14th of October 2025, staff at a Lompoc elementary school filed a report that 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard had not attended class for nearly an entire school year. The absence had stretched so long that when officials reviewed her record, they realized no one at the school had seen her in months. Deputies from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office were sent to the family's home on Mars Avenue. There they met Melodee's mother, Ashley Buzzard. According to investigators, Ashley stated that her daughter was fine but could not explain where she was or provide any recent proof of her well-being. Detectives began reviewing available records and soon found that the last confirmed sighting of Melodee came from a rental car office on October 7. Surveillance footage showed her with her mother, and nothing since. With the timeline now clear, the sheriff's office classified Melodee as an at-risk missing child and notified federal authorities. The case moved quickly from a routine welfare check to a coordinated search involving multiple agencies. Still, one question hung in the air. How could a child vanish for so long without anyone realizing? And if she was truly safe, why hadn't anyone actually seen her? Melodee Buzzard lived with her mother in Vandenberg Village, a quiet residential area near Lompoc, California. Those who knew the family described Melodee as polite and reserved, a child who often kept close to home. Her mother, Ashley Buzzard, was listed as her sole guardian. Court documents and public records show no active contact from Melodee's father, and relatives on his side later told reporters they had not seen the girl in several years. From the outside, the single-story home on Mars Avenue appeared typical, well-kept, surrounded by trimmed lawns, giving little indication of what investigators would later uncover. Neighbors recalled that Ashley rarely socialized. Some said she seemed anxious or withdrawn, though no one could say for certain when they had last seen Melodee. When questioned, Ashley told detectives that she had been homeschooling her daughter. However, the local school district confirmed there were no current filings or records to support that claim. For detectives, this absence of documentation became an early concern. Months of unverified schooling, no recent medical visits, and no public sightings suggested a long period in which Melodee had simply disappeared from community view. It wasn't clear if this was the result of isolation, neglect, or something more deliberate. How could a child remain unseen for nearly a year without drawing attention? Was someone trying to protect her or to keep her hidden? These were the questions that began shaping the direction of the case. On the 7th of October 2025, surveillance footage captured 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard and her mother Ashley at a car rental agency in Lompoc, California. Melodee appeared small beside her mother, wearing a gray hoodie and what investigators later identified as a dark wig. Her face was partly obscured, her movements calm but subdued. That brief video would become the last verified sighting of her. Minutes later, the pair left the agency in a white Chevrolet Malibu, heading east out of town. At that moment, no one realized they were beginning a trip that would stretch across several states and end in silence. Over the next 3 days, digital records placed the rental car hundreds of miles away. Investigators would later confirm the vehicle's presence in Nebraska and Kansas, more than 1,000 miles from Lompoc. The route itself offered few clues: gas stations, highway rest stops, and long stretches of open interstate. No witnesses remembered seeing a child matching Melodee's description. There were no calls to relatives, no hotel registrations in either of their names, and no sign that Ashley had told anyone where she was going. On October 10, Ashley returned the rental car to the same agency in Lompoc. She was alone. According to the sheriff's office, the vehicle appeared clean, with no immediate evidence suggesting a struggle or accident. The car's mileage confirmed the long-distance trip, but beyond that, there was nothing, no indication of where Melodee might have gone or when she had last been seen during the journey. 4 days later, on October 14, The elementary school that Melodee was enrolled in filed a missing child report. Staff members explained that she had been listed on the school's roster, but had not attended since the previous academic year. When deputies from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office arrived at the family's home, Ashley answered the door. She told them that her daughter was safe, but declined to say where she was. Investigators requested to see Melodee, but Ashley could not provide an address or contact information. With no physical confirmation of the child's welfare, the sheriff's office formally classified her as an at-risk missing person and notified the Federal Bureau of Investigation. From that point, the case expanded beyond a local welfare check. Detectives reviewed phone records, financial transactions, and surveillance data from highways along the likely route. The timeline grew clearer, but not easier to explain. The 3 days between October 7 and October 10 remained unaccounted for. There were no confirmed sightings of Melodee after the footage from the rental office. The few security cameras identified along the highways offered no usable images. For investigators, the unanswered questions began to multiply. Why travel so far only to return without the child? Was there a specific destination, or had the trip itself been an attempt to disappear? If Melodee was safe, why had no one seen her since? As days passed, the search stretched across multiple states. Local authorities in Nebraska and Kansas reviewed license plate readers and rest area logs, but none provided new leads. The focus then returned to Lompoc, where forensic teams examined the family home and retraced Ashley's steps in the days following her return. 3 days on the road, 1,000 miles unaccounted for. A child who seemed to vanish between one state line and the next. The evidence left behind was thin, just a few camera frames and a car that came back without her. And so the question that now drives the entire investigation remains: what happened during those 3 days, and why didn't Melodee come home? Investigators quickly identified several details that stood out, pieces of a story that did not quite align. The most striking was the wig. In the surveillance footage from October 7, Melodee appears to be wearing it, her natural hair concealed beneath a dark, straight style that seemed unusual for a 9-year-old. Detectives confirmed that her mother, Ashley, was also known to wear wigs on occasion. It raised an uncomfortable question. Who had prepared this one for Melodee, and why? Was it simply a child copying her parent, or was someone trying to disguise her appearance before leaving town? The next inconsistency was distance. The rental car had traveled more than 1,500 miles during the 3-day trip. For investigators, the journey's purpose remained unclear. There were no recorded stops linked to the pair, no family to visit, no emergency that required such a drive. Each leg of the route west to east and back again was supported only by fuel receipts and mileage data. Whatever happened in those miles left no visible trace, only silence where explanations should have been. Then came the matter of Ashley's statements. Since returning to Lompoc, she has spoken little about the trip. Detectives described her as polite but guarded, unwilling to elaborate beyond brief responses. When questioned by officers or approached by neighbors, she declined to discuss Melodee's whereabouts. Several witnesses later told investigators they saw Ashley removing or tearing down missing person flyers near her home, saying she did not want to see them. Whether that was a sign of distress or avoidance, police have not said. Theories about what might have happened remain varied and cautious. Some investigators consider the possibility that Melodee was taken somewhere for her own protection, perhaps to a relative or under circumstances not yet understood. Others believe the pair may have received help from someone during their journey, someone now unwilling to come forward. The most troubling possibility, though unconfirmed, is that something irreversible occurred on that trip and that Ashley's silence conceals more than fear. Each of these paths remains open, but none lead to closure. Detectives have not publicly named suspects or issued warrants, focusing instead on tracing evidence and verifying timelines. As weeks pass, frustration grows among those following the case. How could so many miles produce so little clarity? If you were in their place, would you believe that the mother knows more than she has said? Or could this be a disappearance where the truth lies in an entirely different direction, one no one has yet imagined? The official investigation expanded quickly once the case reached federal attention. Within days of the missing person report, the Federal Bureau of Investigation joined the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office in reviewing rental car records, GPS data, and traffic cameras along the route between California, Nebraska, and Kansas. Analysts traced the vehicle's path through hundreds of miles of interstate footage, but none provided a clear image of Melodee after October 7. The trail seemed to dissolve in the same silence that had surrounded her disappearance from the start. Investigators released still images from the surveillance video to the public, hoping someone would recognize Melodee or remember seeing her. The pictures showed a small girl in a hoodie, head slightly turned away from the lens, standing near her mother inside the car rental office. The sheriff's office asked for any information about potential sightings or contact with Melodee Buzzard during those critical days. The images circulated widely online and through national news outlets, shared thousands of times across social media. Tips arrived from several states, but each was checked and dismissed. No confirmed lead brought detectives closer to finding the child. In Lompoc, the case drew quiet grief from the community. Neighbors left candles and flowers near the family's driveway, uncertain whether to hope or mourn. Some said they had not seen Melodee in nearly a year and struggled to understand how her absence had gone unnoticed for so long. Others expressed concern for Melodee, describing her as a mother who appeared overwhelmed but not outwardly violent or neglectful. Among the people who knew the family, disbelief was mixed with guilt. How could a child disappear in a town where everyone seemed to know one another? Melodee's classmates, few of whom remembered her well after the long absence from school, created handmade posters that joined the official missing person flyers on street poles and storefronts. Members of her father's extended family traveled to Lompoc to assist in the search and to urge Melodee to cooperate with authorities. Their public statements were cautious but emotional, reflecting both worry and restraint. As weeks passed, the lack of visible progress began to frustrate the wider public. Comment sections and local forums filled with speculation, theories, and pleas for empathy. Law enforcement agencies reminded the community that investigations of this nature require time and evidence, not assumptions. Officials asked the public to stay patient and to avoid spreading unverified claims. Through all of this, one question persisted, echoed in headlines and interviews alike. How does a 9-year-old child vanish in a country lined with cameras, databases, and surveillance networks? In a nation where every highway exit, every store, and every neighborhood street is watched, how could there be no trace of Melodee Buzzard after October 7? It is the question that continues to define the search and the silence that follows it. As the weeks passed with no confirmed sightings and no physical evidence, investigators and the public began to consider several working theories. None have been confirmed, but each attempts to explain how a child could vanish during a trip that left behind almost no trace. The first theory centers on the possibility that Melodee was intentionally concealed by her mother. Detectives have not disclosed any legal disputes or custody conflicts, yet some observers believe Melodee may have been trying to protect her daughter from something real or imagined. In this scenario, the cross-country drive could have been an attempt to relocate quietly, to start over somewhere far from home. Investigators have explored whether Melodee might be staying with someone who has not yet realized the case's scope, but no verifiable evidence supports that outcome. A second theory suggests that the journey itself was interrupted. Somewhere between California and the Midwest, something may have gone wrong, an encounter, an accident, or the involvement of an unknown third party. The absence of witnesses or security footage lends this theory both weight and uncertainty. If another person entered the picture, no one has come forward, and no surveillance system has captured proof of that contact. This line of inquiry remains open, but investigators caution that speculation without facts can distort the search rather than help it. A third theory, one discussed quietly among online communities, considers whether Melodee left of her own accord, perhaps persuaded or misled by someone she met before or during the trip. At 9 years old, that possibility seems remote, but investigators do not dismiss any scenario entirely. They have reviewed digital activity for signs of outside communication, though no such evidence has been publicly reported. Each of these possibilities reflects a different version of the same unanswered question. What happened between October 7 and October 10? The known details, the wig, the distance traveled, the mother's silence fit together only partially. None of them on their own explain why Melodee has not been seen or heard from since. Law enforcement officials emphasize that these are theories, not conclusions. No one has been charged, and no evidence has been released to indicate foul play. Every statement from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office and the FBI stresses the same point. The investigation is active, and all information remains subject to verification. Still, for those following the case, the absence of answers invites speculation. Was this a mother's misguided effort to protect her child? Or did something more sinister occur along the way? Until new information surfaces, the questions continue to multiply, carried by the same uncertainty that began when a little girl stepped out of frame and disappeared. Melodee Buzzard was 9 years old when she disappeared, a child whose world should have been small, familiar, and safe. Instead, her last known journey stretched across 1,500 miles and ended without answers. Weeks later, investigators and volunteers continue to search, combing through miles of road, data, and memory, hoping for even the smallest trace. The Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office asks anyone with information about Melodee's whereabouts to contact detectives at 8056-814-150. Every call is documented, every detail matters, and even the smallest piece of information could change the course of this investigation. Behind every search update and official statement is a single hope that somewhere, Melodee is waiting to be found. Until that day, her absence continues to weigh on those who knew her and those who only know her story. What really happened on that 1,500-mile trip, and why, after 3 weeks, has no one been able to find Melodee Buzzard? We will continue to follow this case and share verified updates as they become available. For now, all that remains is the question and the hope that someone, somewhere, still holds the answer.